In the same article that Mark Bowman kind of poo-pooed the whole idea of Shohei Ohtani, he also said that the Braves' interest in Dylan Cease has been overblown, which also comes from John Morosi. So clearly he has a bone to pick with John Morosi here, saying, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. And listen, I want to preface this with the fact that I really do trust what Mark Bowman writes. I think he gets most things right. I do think he has a good vision of what the Braves are trying to do, whether he's plugged in or not. And I do think he has some sources. But I still think the Dylan Cease thing makes a lot more sense than it does Ohtani. We've seen them in the market for Aaron Nola making a huge contract offer. We've seen them in the market for Sonny Gray. Now, most recently, it's been reported that Seth Lugo is on their radar. I think they are going after the top guys, and there isn't a better option, as I have stated several times, that I think in the trade market, the Dylan Cease, because of his multiple years of control, his relationship, being that he's from Braves country, and just what he offers to this staff from a pure stuff perspective, and how good I think he could be in Atlanta. So I think that makes a lot more sense than going after a guy like Shohei Ohtani, which they've never done. Multiple years of control. There's extension possibilities. He's from Georgia. I know we've talked about the Scott Boras client thing, but that to me, that rumor has always made a lot more sense than any connection to the Braves had to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I want to preface my take by just kind of stating what was said from Morosi and then Bowman, so you guys get a clear understanding of what we're talking about. Some time ago, Morosi reported that talks between White Sox and acquiring teams was heating up, and the Braves were among the finalists. That's all he said. Then Bowman came out today or yesterday, last night, and said it doesn't feel like they should be considered favorites to land Dylan Cease via trade. All of this, again, very big generalities. Finalists could mean 6 different teams. So then again, of course, the Braves probably won't be favored because what? They don't have a great farm system to potentially entice the White Sox to move Cease. Whereas a team like the Dodgers have infinite prospects to dangle in front of the White Sox. So again, these are all generalities from both sides. Again, I want to, say that both sides probably are not getting their information from the Brave side, and they're just saying their feelings. Bowman goes, it doesn't feel like they should be considered favorites. Very big generalities, nothing concrete, nothing one way or the other. He's not saying that it couldn't potentially happen. He's just saying they shouldn't be considered favorites. And when you look at the landscape of teams that have been confirmed to inquire, the Dodgers being one of them, of course they shouldn't be considered the favorites because the Dodgers can offer so much more than the Braves can from a prospect standpoint. So again, I wouldn't take any of this to heart if I'm a Braves fan. It's not to say that Dylan Cease is, likely to be traded to the Braves. I do think that they're still in the running. I wouldn't consider them the favorites for the things I just outlined. But I also wouldn't. None of these reports have changed my mind about the possibilities of what this offseason could hold for the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, Bowman's not really saying anything different than I've said last week when we talked about these things. Now, I always said, is it likely that this is going to happen? No, I don't think it's likely. I think other teams can match whatever the Braves can put their best offer forward. Any team can come in and match because they have more prospects. Will they do that? We don't know, but that's always a possibility that they're going to be faced with. And when another team can match it or even better their offer, how do you really consider them the favorites? So no, I don't think that they're probably the favorites. And especially since I think there's 5, 6, 7 other teams involved. If you're talking about percentages here, again, like we just did with Shohei Ohtani, I think we're in the less than 20% range because you've got 6 or 7 other teams that have the potential to match whatever the Braves can offer. But I do think we're talking about a likelihood much higher than Ohtani. I mean, I still think I've seen people say, 50-50 or something. I still think that's ridiculous. I've said this all week. It's not anywhere close to 50-50. The odds of the Braves landing Dylan Cease before whatever Bowman said, but just from what we knew last week, was always below 20%. It's probably in like the 10 to 15 range if I had to put something on it. But then once again, that's pretty much what Bowman's telling you right here. And I don't think he heard anything necessarily different. I think he just heard that it's not as close that maybe some people were led on to believe that it's going to happen in the next 48 hours, which I even stated last week. I didn't think was going to happen very soon because guess what? There's still Shohei Ohtani. There's still Jordan Montgomery. There's still Blake Snell. There's Yamamoto. All these guys, all these dominoes that could fall before Dylan Cease and the White Sox engage and finalize a deal, if they even deal him. I mean, we're talking about a guy on a 2-year deal. If they don't get a deal that they're blown away with, maybe they don't even deal him. They could deal him at the trade deadline. They could deal him next offseason. So there's not a lot of incentive for the White Sox to rush into a deal right now.
Yeah, and I think that you nailed it about a minute ago, where you said the odds. If we're looking at this from a mathematical point of view, Bowman says they shouldn't be considered favorites. Well, of course they shouldn't be, because there's 6 teams that we know are suitors for Dylan Cease. So right then and there, their odds, if every team has the same amount of odds, that's less than 20%. Right there, that's already less than 20%. Closer to 15%. And then you have to factor in that the Braves don't have all these prospects to offer the White Sox. That probably knocks them down even more. So they're probably closer to 10% than even 15%. So of course they're not going to be considered the favorites. Again, I'm saying this even to the Ohtani fact that Bowman is taking information that's already been out there that he may or may not believe. He's operating with the assumption he understands how Anthopoulos and the Braves organization operates, and then he's using his head to say, well, none of this makes sense. And he could be right. That's what I'm saying is I don't think Bowman is reporting these things. I think Bowman is telling you what he thinks, and then Braves fans or Braves country is taking it as a report, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, but as I said at the beginning of this segment, I do trust Bowman. I do think if there's several guys on the Braves beats that if they say something, I automatically think the opposite. And I don't want to name any names, but let me just tell you, you guys can deduce that from your own thinking. There's several guys that I do not trust. Bowman is a guy that when I hear him tweet something, this is why I'm talking about these things on this segment, I do trust, and I do think he has a good thinking of what the Braves are thinking. But I want to talk about something coming up on the next segment. The Braves are going to make it some sort of move before next season. What is that move going to be?